All right, so today we're going to talk about Notability, specifically functionality of Notability, best practices with Notability, just kind of the nuts and bolts, how to use the program, things like that. So let me open up Notability first. So it's the pencil with the little microphone at the end. And my Notability might look a little bit different than yours, especially if you haven't used it before. So I have two panels. On the left panel, I have all of my they're called subjects and dividers. The dividers divide subjects. So for example, I have this digital citizenship and etiquette divider, and within that I've got all of these different subjects. Okay, so the divider kind of divides up the different subjects. So these are all the digital citizenship and etiquette subjects. Let's say I go to Archive 2016. This is going to be big. This is just where I dumped all of my old subjects from last year. So it kind of just breaks these up. Now these are really big dividers. Your dividers might be fairly small. Like for example, I have an English 1 divider and there's just one subject in there called reading and there's nothing in there. It's really important though to organize your Notability in some way because just like Google Drive, this will turn into something that can very easily become disorganized very quickly and very difficult to find things potentially. And just like it's very important for you to organize your Notability files, it's also very important to be explicit with the students. You know, I want my divider to be called English 1. I want you to put these subjects in the divider. Because if you don't, the kids who open up their backpack and have 500 pieces of paper just flying around inside their backpack, they're going to open up their iPad and have 500 different notes just kind of all crammed together into one spot. All right. Now you'll notice there are a couple of notes subjects at the very top that you start with no matter what. One of them is all notes. All notes is where every single note you have is housed. Okay, so you can't really delete anything from all notes. I guess you could, but you'd completely delete the note. All notes is just going to be there. It's always going to be there. It's going to get large. Mine has 212 notes in it. And if it looks and feels messy and you don't like it, just don't tap on it. There's really no way to get around it. It's how Notability is organized. They put everything into all notes first. But that being said, I can search for notes, right? I have this little magnifying glass. If I know roughly what the note is called or some key words inside the note, maybe I'm looking for something like mitosis. You know, I know it's about mitosis. It will search for those keywords within the notes. So just be aware of that. It's not always perfect, especially if the things are handwritten. It can't search handwriting very well. But if it's text, it does a pretty good job searching those things. All right, let's say I just want to open up a file in Notability. You know, I would just hit the pen with the piece of paper in the upper right-hand corner, and here's a Notability file. I can use a keyboard to type. One thing I really like, notice there's hearts with ABC in there. Let me put something in there. If I long press, I can select a font and color and all this other stuff. Okay, and let me do B. I'll make that green. That sounds good. All right. So notice these are favorites. So A is favorited as red. So when I tap on A, my color turns red. B is favorited as green. So when I tap, it turns green. And you can change the font and the size and all kinds of things. And this is just great if if you're typing feedback or you want something a specific color. If you want to color code your notes or have your students color code their notes, this is just a nice way to easily switch between colors and font sizes and things like that. Other than that, the typing is exactly what you see. Across the top in the middle, there's a pencil, highlighter, eraser, the cutting tool, and then the finger is so that you can navigate up and down the page. Because a lot of times you're going to accidentally be making these marks trying to navigate up and down the page. But you either need to use the finger to do that, or two fingers always navigates and doesn't write. Let's erase that. There's a lot of features in here. The welcome note that Notability comes with does a really nice job of walking through what to do and is a little tutorial on how to do it. So I'm not going to go through a ton of those features, but it is really nice and is kind of a nice function. All right, so one last thing. Let's say I need my students to turn this in, right? I would like them to actually turn in their note. Maybe this is something that they filled out or a diagram they identified or a worksheet, what have you. The easiest way to do that is just to tap on the share sheet up here. And I'm going to tap Other Apps. Okay. Now the format, for most cases, you're going to want to make sure the students submit it as a PDF. A note file is nice because it keeps everything together, and if you add audio notes, which we'll go over in a later video, it keeps those together and everything is kind of nice. But it also requires you to download every single student's file into your Notability and to look at it there and then export it back out. It's just a very clunky grading method. So if you're going to be grading this and you just want it kind of quick to see what they did, you want to make sure that they turn in a PDF copy. We're not going to have recordings turned on. Paper, that's like a background. If it's a grid or graph paper, you can turn that on, but usually that's just off as well. And then you're going to tap Share Note. From there, if you're using iTunes U will work. There we go. It's right there. I can open it up, and then from here the students will select the course and the subject within that course. So they just would tap on, I'm trying to find one where I'm a student. They would tap on, I'm not a student of these, maybe this one. Yeah, they would tap on the course, and then they would choose the assignment that they'd like to turn it in on. If you're using Google Classroom, the steps have a tendency of changing a little bit. So depending on the update to Google Classroom and when things are working, your students might be able just to tap Classroom and attach it to an assignment from there. Or they might have to copy it to their drive and then attach the drive file. It's one extra step. It's not a huge problem or a huge issue, but it is an extra step. I suppose they could also save it to files if you wanted to, and then upload it to their Classroom from the Files app, which is also another option. All right, so before I leave, let me just say one last thing. Something that's really important is to make sure that everything's backed up, because if you break your iPad, or if one of your students breaks their iPads, you need to make sure that that information isn't gone forever. So if you tap on the gear down here at the very bottom, you'll notice auto backup. Now I've turned auto backup on and I have Google Drive selected. Now you will have to sign into Google Drive using your d218.net account, but it will automatically then upload every Notability file to Google Drive. And just for safekeeping, I've also turned on iCloud backup. Now what iCloud does, which is kind of nice, is it's not just a backup, it's not just the physical folders themselves, it also keeps all of the organization. So if I were to back up just to Google Drive, I'll have everything in Google Drive and I'll be able to get my notes down, but it doesn't necessarily really hold this organizational strategy, this organizational structure that I have with dividers and subjects. Whereas if I sync it up to iCloud, it does hold that. If you have any questions about Notability, this is a very quick and very abridged run-through of the different functions, because I feel like a lot of people have a basic grasp of it. But if you have any questions about it, especially how to create subjects and dividers and different workflow questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Otherwise, thank you and good luck.